So, what if you had, two times the number of sales on your website? What would your life be like if you learned the exact strategies to get more traffic and conversions? Maybe you got two times the number of leads or phone calls or people looking for your help. Could you imagine what would happen if you were ranking number one for your keyword, your industry that brings in the sales for you?
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another A2 Hosting webinar on our A2 Hosting YouTube channel and show. And today we've got another great webinar. I've got Zach Corta, the GM of Monster Insights, a great WordPress plugin I've used. And I know some of the people that originally built it. And now I get to meet Zach, who runs Monster Insights, but he's going to be talking about how to easily double or triple your traffic and sales from your website. So if you don't have a pen and paper, however you take notes, do that now. One more thing before I turn this thing over to Zach is if you have questions, as always on these webinars at A2 Hosting, hit that Q&A button down at the Zoom, and we'll take your questions if we have some time at the end of the webinar. But Zach, could you tell us, you may have this, if you already have this in here, you can answer it as your presentation, but could you tell us a little bit about yourself? And again, thank you for being here today and sharing what you're sharing today.
Well, thanks for the kickoff, Corey. I really appreciate it, and I'm very glad to be here. I talk very fast, so I'll make a note to hopefully keep it slow. And if I'm going too fast, please shout out. I'll make sure to slow down. All right. So, first of all, when I love giving these webinars, just you're here. Take a few minutes. You can invest in yourself. The stuff I'm going to show you today is going to be really impactful and it's going to be pretty useful. And I don't want you to miss anything. So just turn off the notifications. I know Corey mentioned this as well. Get ready to take some notes, and we'll get this party started. So, uh, as Corey mentioned, I'm Zach Corda. I have been in the WordPress space for quite a while. But my background is actually in growth marketing. I've been working with a whole bunch of different businesses over the course of the last 15 years in some of the most competitive industries imaginable. I've worked behind the scenes on some brands you've probably heard of and helping them grow and scale their businesses. And as Corey alluded, I'm now the general manager at Monster Insights, which is the number one WordPress plugin for Google Analytics. And our mission truly is to help small businesses grow and compete with the big guys. And every day we help thousands of businesses at Automotive and at Monster Insights unlock the power of their websites and get really awesome, useful insights out of it and tools and tips and everything else. So with that out of the way, let's get started. And I'm excited to show you what I have in store for you today. So what if you had, two times the number of sales on your website? What would your life be like if you learned the exact strategies to get more traffic and conversions? Maybe you got two times the number of leads or phone calls or people looking for your help. Could you imagine what would happen if you were ranking number one for your keyword, your industry that brings in the sales for you? I'm guessing that would make things better for not only you, but probably your team or your employees, and probably even your family. And imagine if achieving these goals isn't difficult and it doesn't need to cost a fortune. It probably sounds too good to be true, right? Well, if that's not the best setup ever for how you can do this, it's the power of website analytics, right? With website analytics and properly setting it up, it's easy to make data-driven decisions. You'll see that on our website all over the place. A lot of times, as small business owners or even in bigger companies, we kind of go by our gut. We wing it, right? It's easy to feel things are working, but in reality, they might not be, and they might not be as efficient as possible. And so once you have properly set up website analytics for your site, it's really easy to see those results. It's easy to see what's working and what's not. And that way, you can focus on what matters most and stop wasting time and energy on things that maybe are not working as well as you thought. And, you could say, Zach, obviously you work for Monster Insights, so you're going to say website analytics, right? And that's the way to unlock the secrets of success. Well, there's a lot of people who are a lot smarter than I am. Look at some of these quotes. And again, these are on our homepage. These are big companies. These are, consulting companies, places that you've seen before. Minted, a huge powerhouse website. They had 400% year-over-year growth thanks to using website analytics properly. And MIT, obviously top of the notch, really intelligent people. They found that organizations that are using analytics properly typically will get 5 times more sales and performance and output than those that don't. So great, Zach. If website analytics is your golden ticket to unlocking more money from your website and growing your business, well, why is not everyone doing it? Well, For all of you here, I'm guessing this probably isn't news to you, but there's a couple different things I wanted to share. First of all, as you all know, Google Analytics offers a free tool called Google Analytics. It's the world's most popular analytics tool. The newest version, Google Analytics 4, came out a couple of years ago, and it was a major, major step up from the Universal Analytics in GA3. But with all that power, it also is very complicated. And unless you're a professional marketer or a data scientist, it can get very overwhelming. And even for those types of folks, right, who have that experience in website analytics and maybe have come from, older generation of analytics tracking tools, GA4 has a really steep learning curve. If you're not, familiar with the terms of dimensions and metrics and segments and being able to pull in scopes and everything else, Google Analytics 4 is hard. And candidly, in my opinion, Google Analytics, it just wasn't designed for folks like you. It was designed for power users from really big companies who spend millions of dollars a year, or trying to justify their ROI and looking at what campaigns are performing. And I worked for companies like this before. I know this is what they do and why GA4 exists. So just remember that GA4 is really complicated once you get in there. The other secret about why analytics just isn't, as popular and it can be used as fully as it could be is you need to have it properly set up. And this is important because if you're not properly setting up your analytics, you're not going to know what to improve or how to grow your site or traffic and conversions. And there's definitely been improvements over the years to try to make this easier. When you set up a new website, you add the Google tag, but even that now has gotten pretty complicated, right? Now it used to be just stick a tag on a site and go. But now you need to have Google tag and you need to be sending it in. You need to redo all of your event tracking. It truly is a much more complicated problem now than it was even a few years ago. And in order to get all those stats, you need to have everything tracked properly. So think about like link clicks, think about campaign management, think about funnels and device tracking, even just sales performance and item performance. Regardless of how you do this, for WordPress specifically, it's going to require updates to your templates. And you're always going to probably need to use a developer. Even if you just want to get the simple like page tracking views, it's gotten pretty complicated over the past few years. The last secret I want to share with you today is once you have your analytics set up and you're measuring things, you need to measure it. You need to monitor it. You need to do something with that data. Unfortunately, I'm a kid of the '90s, and I love that Ronnie Ronco commercial, set it and forget it, and everyone would cheer in the audience. That's not the way website analytics works, right? Once you have it set up, once you're tracking, once you're looking at the reports, you need to do something with it. You need to take action. Your business is not static, and neither is your website. Things are always changing. Certain campaigns, certain channels that once worked suddenly stop. Google makes a change, and suddenly you're getting a bunch more traffic, or maybe you're not getting nearly as much traffic. That's the power of having properly set up website analytics. Is once it's set up, you're free to create the insights that you need, and then grow your business. So how can you tackle all these things to grow your business? Well, it's Monster Insights, right? No surprise. It's our awesome WordPress plugin called Monster Insights. It's used by over 3 million people and counting. We harness the power of Google Analytics so that your site will never slow down no matter how popular or customized it gets, but we make Google Analytics easy for everyone to use. Monster Insights specifically was built to get your website analytics up and running in less than a few minutes with zero coding or developer needed. It also has beautiful built-in reporting, which I'll show you here. And you can easily start getting insights immediately to grow your site without needing a degree in data analysis, and also never having to leave your WordPress dashboard, which is really cool. And it will show you those immediate opportunities to start scaling your website and business effectively starting now. And the best part is it was designed for all website owners of WordPress, whether you're a beginner, novice, or advanced. And I love to show you how it all works. So I'm inside right now. Google offers basically a free account where you can kind of play with Google Analytics. This is their merchandise store. I just want to walk you through what Google Analytics 4 looks like and kind of run through some of the common reports and whatnot and show you how to build some things. Because a lot of folks, and I'm guessing there's quite a few here on the webinar that are a little bit more advanced and want to poke around inside GA4. But let's show you how to do this. As you can see here, when I log in, it's a little overwhelming. We have a whole bunch of stats and metrics that may or may not make a difference to you. Visually, it looks cool, but there's not a lot of deep insights here, right? I can see, as I scroll down at the bottom, I can see my sessions by default. I can see where my users are coming from. And in this case, because it's the e-commerce store for Google, they have their products and services here that they offer and sell. But anyways, just digging in here, let me show you the navigation. So we have our home screen, then we have reports and explore, and then last but not least, I want to point out advertising. So as I was mentioning before, this is kind of the way that a lot of marketers will use Google Analytics is to see how their advertising performance is working. And you can see the importance of this here because it's actually part of a top menu item here inside Google Analytics 4. So anyway, let's jump into a few reports. I'll show you some of my favorites and how they work and function. So a lot of times the real-time overview is super helpful. So if I'm looking at maybe launching a promotion or a campaign or have an email newsletter go out, this is really helpful to see what's happening on the site in real time. It's important to know that Google Analytics 4 is not a real-time analytics plugin. And even Universal Analytics 3, you would typically see conversions and events and everything happen and be reported within a few hours. With Google Analytics 4, just a pro tip, I've seen things take over 24 hours to process. So if you're looking at traffic for a previous day, you generally will have to wait until, the afternoon of the next day to see the stats from the previous day. There's definitely a backlog of processing, and that's what this real-time overview report helps to highlight and showcase, is things that are happening in real time before it gets a chance to be processed fully. So you can see here active users, you can see here where people are coming from. In this case, it's a lot of people that are directly hitting the store. You can see the audiences here. Again, this is what's used for advertising. You can target these specifically. We can look at pages, event counts. A lot of these are pre-generated and created automatically. And then you have key events. So key events, probably to a lot of people are known as goals. So typically you'll have purchase on here. And then depending on how you had your website set up, it might be something like a lead. It could be something like, in this case, add to cart. These are the key events that you want to measure and monitor conversions for. All right. So that's the overview report. Pretty helpful for kind of those real-time things to see what's happening. If I drill down here into acquisition, again, I'm not going to go through all these. I'll just go through a few key things that I look for and whatnot. So overview acquisition here gives you a quick snapshot of where your traffic is coming from. Specifically, what I look at is this, and I can dig in here further, which will take me to this report, but just hang on a second. So you can see where people are coming in from, specifically by Google Ads campaigns, values of users, and then again, sessions by the different types of where they're coming from. What's nice about GA4 is you can drill in. So like in this case here, where I was talking about like the view user acquisition, I can dive in further. And this is typically what you'll see for a report in detail. And I just want to go over how to finesse these a little bit because there's some really awesome hidden potential, powerful tools in here. So the chart by default looks pretty cool. You can segment it out and break it out between week and month, of course. But each of these columns here is sortable. So when you look at these, you see total users, which is helpful, but maybe you want to see a channel that is not performing as well. In this case, again, it's the Google Merchandise Store, so it looks like there's some, cross-network action happening. But this isn't exactly extremely helpful. So what you can do is actually break out things here right in the chart. So real quick, you just click this drop down here, and you'll see how to be able to grab different metrics and dimensions to look at. So in this case, maybe I'll look at the first user source. And these are all the sources hitting the website. Let me go ahead and reverse sort that. Cool. Up here, there's a comparison mode. So this date picker is actually pretty slick. If you scroll down, it's a little hidden, but you can actually do comparisons immediately. And GA4 is really smart where they'll actually do pre-periods. So like I have the last 28 days here and actually was smart enough to pick the prior last 28 days. And you get your typical reports here that you've seen in the past with Universal Analytics or any other reporting tool. But one thing to keep in mind is that by default, there's only 10 rows. So I always mention this to folks because there's actually a lot more data here behind the scenes. And so let's drill down here and you can see, reddit.com in this case about 17 and then 17 and looks about the same, right? So cool stuff there. You can also create comparisons on pretty much every chart. So right now it's all users. Perhaps I wanted to grab something that was from organic. Can do that as well. I can hit apply. And now I will actually see, let me get out of this comparison mode here. It might be a little too much to show on one screen. Turn this off. There we go. Great. And now I can actually compare these two different segments. So you can see how all users in this case are working against organic traffic. So pretty powerful. That's pretty much built into almost every report here. They've recently released an annotations feature. And then you can also start tweaking some of these things here. You can share it and whatnot, but that's kind of the gist of how to manage and massage these reports. You also have searching here. So user acquisition is users. which is different than traffic because a user can visit your site multiple times. And so they would be counted as one user, but they might have multiple visits. And so here, the traffic acquisition report is very important to me. I can see specifically where traffic is coming from. In terms of engagement, believe it or not, events is something that I personally don't look at as much, and I'll explain why. It's actually not as useful, like out of the first gate, right? Like we can see the number of page views, we can see the session starts, but it's not as helpful. I don't really do anything with the session starts if I look at sessions. You have your first visit, which is tagged automatically, but where I really truly get the most use out of GA4 native reports is in the pages and screens section here. And this is literally the views, the active users, and then in this case, key events. This was the purchases as well as the add to carts. This allows me to see which page is generating which event. So that's a little bit more helpful. It's showing me some engagement stats. I can start making some comparisons this way. Similarly, another page I really look at is landing pages, right? You having traffic hit your website, whether it's through a marketing campaign, organically, direct, social, take your pick. You want to see how your landing pages are performing. And so again, here, it's a very simple report. You can add more rows, or looks like 792. But this again is where I start looking and drilling down into things. And again, for an overview, this is quick and easy. But I'll show you in a second here how to get a lot more details out of this. In terms of monetization, e-commerce purchases, I'm imagining a lot of y'all have e-commerce stores, whether you're selling something digitally or you actually have a physical goods. You can see here we have some really basic information in terms of the product performance of the store. So for the last month or so, 28 days, the store has generated $140,000 in revenue out of 13,000 items, and you can start drilling down in here and see a purchase journey report, which is somewhat like a funnel, right? These are the funnels you're probably used to. Unless you have it properly set up, those I was mentioning before, you're not going to get these insights. And then promotions is just going to be your coupon codes, that type of thing. And then transactions, this is pretty familiar from the past. You have a transaction ID, and you can drill down into these. Something useful out of GA4 is the Search Console integration. They've been playing with this over the last little while, so it looks a little bit differently here and there. But you can see here, these are the queries that are connected in Search Console, and this is again what's driving sales. I can see here, I can keep going through and optimizing things this way. And last but not least here, before I jump over to the really powerful stuff with GA4, it's just some audience information. This is only going to work with websites that have a decent amount of traffic. A lot of this is hidden for privacy reasons, but you can start getting into audiences and demographic details here once your site has some good traffic. So you can see here that, for United States is the #1 driver. I can actually drill down here and start looking at interests. So if you have Google Ads set up and integrated, you can see here I have some of the interest profiles and categories. And again, you can measure the performance and start drilling down if you want to. And last but not least, my favorite one probably is going to be the technology because I'm a nerd at heart. You can see here we get operating system details, we get browser specific details, and then resolution details. These are important because you can actually start optimizing your website if you see things going in the right way or the wrong way and drill down to see what's working. So a lot of information I know I covered in a relatively short time, but I just wanted to give a walkthrough of the basic essentials of analytics reporting inside GA4. Now, where the power really comes into play is, in my opinion, when you start creating your own reports. So I went down here to explore, and these are the explorations. And you can see I have a few here that I've created in the past, and looks like there's some others from a whole bunch of other people. But for anyone that's familiar with a spreadsheet or pivot tables, that's essentially what you're building here. And so this is where I was mentioning earlier, where if you're not familiar with some really technical terms from the analytics world, this gets complicated quickly. So let's create a sample report here. I love my landing page report, and I want to get insights more out of my landing page report. So let me just show you how this is built, and to show you even a simple report, what you need to do. So I'm going to call this landing page report so I can find it in the future. That's not difficult. But let's go ahead and start picking dimensions. So if you don't know these off the top of your head, this is what you get. Now there is a search bar. So I happen to know that it's called landing page. That's what I'm looking for. And I actually don't want the query string. That's a new dimension that they just added, was landing page, which keeps this nice and clean. Okay. So now I've got my landing page dimension, and let me grab as well as a week, right? I want to see how my website's performing over the last few weeks. All right. And then what do I want to see? Well, if I have a landing page, I probably want to see the sessions. Oops. Right, you can see how many there are here. So I just typed in session, and in this case here, I'm looking for, let's grab sessions, engage sessions, and we can also include bounce rate. I'm gonna go ahead and confirm. And then let's also get fancy here, and let's look at where these traffic is coming from. So again, this is just all off of memory. You can search for this if you'd like. But I'm gonna go ahead and do session default channel group. Okay. So for those of you who built a pivot table before, we're ready to rock and roll. So what I'm going to do here is start adding rows, and it's going to populate here in real time on the table. So let's keep it simple, and we're going to add landing page. So I'm going to double click on landing page and bring it over here. And you'll see it populate in rows. And then we're just going to add these metrics. So I'm just going to double click. I can also drag and drop if I want. And voila. So now, I know this looks a little complicated, but I'll show what's happening here. So the dimensions here, if you think about that, that's our rows, right? That's essentially what we're looking to look at the data by. In this case, we're just looking at landing page. And then the metrics are things that I'm counting. So in this case, I'm counting sessions, engaged sessions, and then a bounce rate. Similar situation to the overview reports that I was showing earlier. There's an automatic default of 10 rows. So I'm actually going to increase this to 500. And similarly, I can sort just by clicking here, and it'll do an alphabetical, or in this case, if I click sessions, it'll sort it from most to least. All right, so this is kind of helpful, but let's take it a step further, right? Let's say, again, let's look at things for the past few weeks. So what I can do is actually grab here week. I'm actually going to flip this. So week is number 1, and then landing page is number 2. And then just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to reduce this here so there's not as much clutter. So you can see here, the last 28 days was the 10th, 11th, and 12th week. So you see here where kind of the computer sorting happens, right? It wasn't truly in a typical sorted row. And you can see here, we start getting a whole bunch of noise and everything else. So you say, okay, well, you know what? I'm getting all this stuff I don't want to get. Let's clean this up a little bit. Well, let's go down here to filters. And I'm going to filter out the sessions. And I will only want to see sessions that are greater than or equal to, in this case, let's grab 5. All right. So now we just clean this up a little bit. And candidly, what my favorite part of GA4 is in this report builder is I can actually export this into a spreadsheet, and I can pivot from there, and I can get analysis out of there, which is pretty nice. Okay, so this was a landing page report. If I wanted to see maybe, let's drop the landing page. And let's just look at where our traffic is coming from. All right, and let's flip this up a little bit here so it's a little bit more straightforward. All right, so for the last 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 weeks, so I guess we're in the 13th month of the year, which is crazy to believe already. You can see here on my direct channel, for blah, 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 so on and so forth. And I can keep adding metrics here. Maybe what I want to add is items purchased. Let's see here. Confirm. All right, and let me scroll. Let me remove this just so it's on the one screen. Let's get rid of engage sessions. All right, I'm going to double click items purchased, and voila. So now we know the week of the 9th, the direct traffic had 747 purchases with a 35% bounce rate. Pretty cool. You can come up here as well and change these into different charts. So if I want to do a line chart, I can do this. So in this case, I can only have one metric, and my breakdown would be the channel is coming from. You can play with this, and again, anyone that's played with a lot of these visualization tools before, you'll have done this before. All right, so that's kind of how to build reports. I know, again, I covered quite a bit in quite a short amount of time. But let me show you here by comparison Monster Insights, and this is what I'm excited by, right? So you can see here, I've been doing this for a while, and I know kind of what I'm looking for, and I know how to pivot these things out, and I know what I want. But for a lot of people that don't live and breathe data all day and every day, it can be pretty complicated and take a lot of time. So what I have here is a sample demo site. So some of this data is not going to make 100% sense because we're filling in a lot of the data just through demo mode. But I want to give you a quick overview of Monster Insights and some of the reports that I was showing you inside Google Analytics, how nice and easy it is to set up and look at properly. So I'm going to start with the settings page because, again, as a nerd, I always like seeing how and what everything is working. So see here under engagement, I have EU compliance toggled on automatically. So with all the privacy and consent modes and everything else, It's one-click activation here, which makes it really nice and easy for Monster Insights and you to be compliant with laws like GDPR, PECR, and so on and so forth. We have features that are designed for every power user and every type of e-commerce website. So we built a feature called Privacy Guard, which keeps PII, which is personally identifiable. That's a tongue twister. My goodness, personally identifiable information outside of Google Analytics, which is against their terms of service. We have link tracking built in. We have our own scroll tracking built in. We can do cross-domain tracking, and we can also track downloads automatically. For everyone that's running an e-commerce shop, so if you're running WooCommerce or Easy Digital Downloads or maybe MemberPress or GiveWP or MemberMouse or Charitable or so on and so forth, we actually have automatic integrations off the bat. So if you have a store that is one of our providers that we support, you automatically are going to have all your e-commerce tracking built in, all your funnels built in, all tagged up, all good to go without ever hiring a developer. And literally, it's automatic. I didn't even have to click this. It's like 0 click, not even 1 click. We integrate with affiliate platforms automatically into Google Analytics. And we also have an user ID tracking. So if you want to track what people are logged in doing on your website, you can do this. For publishers out there, we also have specific path URLs. So if you have maybe a specific URL, go recommend, see, visit, so on and so forth, we can apply an affiliate label to that. We support Google AMP. We also support video tracking. So if you have any hosted videos, whether it's Vimeo or YouTube, or even just an HTML5 video that's being sent from your site directly, we have tracking for that. Conversions tracking, we integrate automatically with all the different form providers out there. So WP Forms, which is part of Awesomotive, Gravity Forms, Formidable. But then best of all, we also actually will track any standard HTML WordPress form out of the box. Custom dimensions. So these are things that I didn't even touch on inside the Google Analytics overview screens, but we properly will send all this information to GA4. So if I go back to my publisher example, you can actually see what authors are generating which page views or which affiliate income. In your e-commerce store, you can see when you should publish things at. You can see which categories are performing or underperforming. Again, all of this is being sent behind the scenes properly without any development. We've been extending quite a bit our PPC ads tracking. So if you're not comfortable or don't want to play with Google Tag Manager or another tagging platform, we make this really easy. You just plop in your Google AdWords conversions, labels, you're good to go. We also support enhanced conversions. We have Facebook tracking, Microsoft Ads tracking, and we just announced it. We just actually released this yesterday as our TikTok ads tracking. So if you're using any of these PPC platforms and you don't want to mess with Tag Manager, you can actually just enter in your conversion labels here, and Monster Insights will take care of it. And then for all of my really advanced folks out there, we have email summaries. If you're an agency, this is a really powerful tool because we'll actually send out all your key stats on behalf of you. You can customize your header image and everything else. We also have exception reports and alerts. So if we notice that something is going off, whether you have an increase in traffic or a decrease in traffic, or maybe you have many more sales coming in, we can actually notify you and add site notes and annotations to your website without you ever having to do anything. We also log all site note important events. So if you're a little bit more of a developer shop and you want to understand maybe where plugins are being activated or WordPress is being updated and how it might impact your performance, we monitor all this. And then of course we have advanced permissions, consent mode, and then performance tracking. So if you have a really, really popular site, there's some really powerful tools here. We also can exclude queries, which again, you don't want to mess with Google Tag Manager. This is built in automatically. We have reporting, updates, so on and so forth. So you're saying, Zach, why am I showing you all this stuff? Well, I'll show you why. Because once you kind of see all the stuff that this thing can do, I want to show you how to actually use Monster Insights to get insights. So again, this is a sample dashboard. So it looks a little odd, probably looks a little interesting, but just bear with me. So I'm logged into a pro account here. I can see I have sessions, page views, total users, page views, all of my key stats right here. I didn't have to build a report. I didn't have to go to a different screen. We actually also have the ability to remove and customize these as you want. So if I want to look at perhaps, in this case, e-commerce purchases, well, I don't have anything showing up here, but you know what I mean. It works, I promise. You have stats at a glance here as well. So it's a different way of looking at your analytics. You can see what's happening with your page views, your sessions, posts, so on and so forth. We also pull out most popular times, products, and pages. So this again helps you understand how your website's performing so you can take action and understand maybe something is different about, in this case, Monday. For some reason, Monday seems to be a really popular day. Maybe my social campaigns are working. Maybe campaigns are coming through. If we have products here, I could say maybe for some reason our newest product isn't selling as well as we thought it would, and we'll be able to see it. If the key stats here, again, if you remember in Google Analytics 4, this all required going to different screens, toggling the toolbars, finessing it, trying to make it work. We have new returning visitors, device breakdowns, which I shared with you earlier. And then we have our geography report, our top referrals report, and then just overall counts. So again, if you just want to see how your website's performing, which pages are doing what, you can easily see it here. And of course, we won't be an analytics tool without date ranges. So we make it really, really easy to compare. So similar to what you saw on the Google Analytics screens. Let me pop over here. And my chart's not working. I'm sorry for this. No, it's not comparing, but you can see here in these other charts here, for some reason this chart isn't showing the way I wanted it to. We can see here, looking at the past, in this case, December, 6 month, I believe it is. I can get comparisons really easy and drill down to what's working and what's not, right? So I have date 1, date 2, and I can do the changes over time. Again, this is all sample data. Your data will look probably a lot more impressive than this. So that's just the overview report. And you can see here, imagine, if this was showing up, you get a lot of insights pretty quickly on how your site's performing, almost like a quick KPI check-in. Very powerful stuff. Now, if you want to drill in further, here's where our other reports help. So in the traffic report, we built this just for you, right? So we have sessions, page views. Let me take off these date comparisons. I'm like a little bit messy. You can see here I have my sessions broken out by channels. So really quick, without having to pivot, without having to sort, I can easily see which channel is driving what. Sessions, pages, purchases, my conversions, and my revenue from this. Very easy to sort, very easy to see what's happening. There's really no issues here. It should be really simple, which is what we designed this product to do. Landing page details, which I talked about in GA4. Again, these are my landing pages. I have my key stats right here. If I wanted to filter and just look at maybe the pricing pages, I could do that. So you can see here, it's a real-time sort, which is super slick. So if you're looking at maybe your products, they'll share the product name or something of that nature. You can drill down pretty much instantly. I look at campaigns, another powerful feature. We look at UTM campaigns and we help understand what's happening. So if you're using UTM parameters, whether you're using Google Ads or social campaign, email campaigns, you can see here exactly the same stats all over again and take action on what's working or what's not. So in this case, I have my UTM campaigns. I can drill down into my source mediums. So you see here, and again, like Bing, CPC, this is a paid campaign. And I can drill down further if I need to. Last but not least, report. We have a social media report. So if we're doing social organically or paid social, I can see here we actually pop all these in, pretty icons, and you can export this as a PDF. So very powerful. For all publishers out there, maybe you have authors, links, affiliate tracking you want to do. This is all the stuff again that's set up with zero coding. We have our landing pages, which you saw before, but we add some different metrics here to help you optimize and increase your engagement on specific pages. We have outbound link click counts, affiliate link click counts, download links. So if you're maybe giving PDFs or spreadsheets or something else, you have them all right here. We also have that demographic information. So as I was mentioning before, if you have enough traffic and Google Analytics allows us to showcase this information, we certainly will. So we have age breakdowns, gender breakdowns, we have interest categories, which you can use to optimize your ad campaigns. And then we have our own unique average scroll depth tracking. This gives you a lot more insights versus what Google Analytics does by default. So very, very powerful tools there for all publishers that are looking to increase your activity. Monster Insights has Search Console integration. So similar to GA4, I think ours is just a little bit easier, a little bit more just insightful. As you can see here, we have my terms, clicks, impressions, CTR, and average position. And again, I can pivot this or change the date and filter in this way. And again, all this stuff is exportable via PDF. So if you're an agency, you're providing these services for your clients, it makes it really easy. All right, e-commerce. So e-commerce, love e-commerce. We have conversion rates, transactions revenue, order revenue, all built in. Didn't have to create any sort of report, didn't have to pivot anything, didn't have to filter anything. It's all easy. If I wanted to, I'm not going to click this because it's not going to work right now, but I could easily click this link and it would take me actually into the report for Google Analytics 4. So if you wanted to maybe get some more insights, scroll down further, maybe add some breakdowns that we don't have in here. Maybe you want to see by devices or something of that nature. You can easily do that here by clicking these buttons, which will take you to your specific report inside Google Analytics. You also have conversion sources. So again, maybe you're an affiliate partner, you have relationships with different companies out there. We actually will show you the sources that are driving you the most sales and revenue. And then we also have some insights here to abandoned checkouts and customers and so on and so forth. Again, these are super powerful tools for anyone that's running an e-commerce store. Can look at my coupons. Very easy. I can see the revenue, transactions, and the order value that was generated from my coupons. Cart abandonment report. We just announced this feature last month. This is a really, really powerful feature for anyone that wants to make more money. I can see specifically which products are being abandoned and optimize my store. So in this case here, I'll just walk you through the logic, which is really insightful. So say I was selling all the Awesomotive plugins on my website, and in this case, Monster Insights, I lost 10 sales, which would have been the equivalent of $110. I have a 98% abandonment rate with a checkout abandonment rate of 80%. So what this allows me to do is refine and say, okay, maybe people are adding this to the cart, but they're leaving. Maybe once they get to the checkout, there's something that is scaring them away. And you can optimize this. And you can start looking at the changes over time. Cart abandonment by day. Also, another very powerful feature. So you can say, all right, maybe on Mondays or Tuesdays, I have a really high cart abandonment rate. Maybe I need to run a promotion. Maybe I need to figure out, is there a certain type of device or campaign that's not converting as well as it could be? This starts illuminating that information so you can start optimizing your site to make more money. And last but not least here, a funnel report. This is built in for EDD and WooCommerce. This is done for you automatically. No configuration needed. You can see here we have the view items, add to cart, and purchase funnels, which is really awesome and visually cool. I like this. But then we also provide a breakdown, so we can actually break it down by channel, and I also can break it down by country. So very powerful to start looking at differences within your traffic and see what's happening on your website so you can optimize. All right, I'm just going to keep going through here. I'll go a little faster since you get the hang of this. Our dimensions is that really powerful component that allows you to send a whole bunch of really powerful information data to your website analytics. So here I have popular tags. Again, this is sample data, but maybe I have certain categories that are over or underperforming. Best link types, if I had affiliate links, modification time, publish day. Again, this is all sample data, and this one's not putting into the chart, but you can get the idea and the gist here. We have categories as well as the times. So sometimes some sites perform better at night, sometimes in the morning. You can actually see it here and stop making those gut decisions, but actually make a data-driven decision. You can also see here the popular post types. If you have any custom post types, in this case here, we have a video post type and a guide post type. We can see what's happening over time and understand what people are engaging with. Forms tracking, if you're running any sort of lead gen, maybe you're not an e-commerce store, maybe you just want to see contact us information. They make it easy here to see how your forms are performing so you can optimize. If you're doing any sort of inbound marketing or maybe you have a lead form, this is really powerful. You can start seeing what's working, what's not. Maybe you add a new field and it's not converting as highly. You can actually see it here and make that data-driven decision. And then similarly to Google Analytics 4, we have a real-time report here. Again, though, for me, it's a little bit more simpler just to see what's happening. So we'll see live count, we'll have page views, top pages, countries, and top cities. So again, pretty powerful just to get a pulse on what's happening. I'm going to skip site speed here. I'm going to go to media. This is all the video tracking. So again, we have the sample videos here, but I can actually get the number of plays within a certain time, the watch time, the average percent watch, and the completion rate. So if you're doing any sort of video on your website and you want to see how it's performing and if it's working or not, this is a really, really easy way to see across all your media. And that takes it through the UI and UX of Monster Insights. These are the core reports. There's a couple other pro features here I do want to share with you because we built this for agencies in mind. So one feature here that Google Analytics has recently announced is their annotations feature. We actually had this for a little while. We call it site notes. But what this allows you to do is actually add site notes that'll show up on the charts, just like annotations did in GA3. So we can pick a date. I can add in my label. I can actually include media if I'd like to. So maybe I have a screenshot of a promotion we launched. Maybe I have a screenshot of text exchange or something else. You can actually upload this here and give it categories. Now, one of the neat things about this is we'll actually add site notes automatically for you. So if you publish a new product, publish a new post, we'll actually add a site note for you automatically. So that way you can always drill back and say, okay, I don't remember what I did, 2 months ago or a year ago, why did traffic go up? Or why did my conversions go down? We have to see it get a historical log of this automatically. Again, this is all built into Monster Insights. For our pro users, we also have AI Insights. This feature allows you to literally push a button and get insights. And I'm guessing it's not working because I have no real data to do this on. So bear with me, I'm sorry. We also have AI Conversations. So this is essentially ChatGPT for analytics. So maybe you don't want to drill through Monster Insights as UI, and maybe you just want to get a stat out of your analytics. You can do it really easily here. I have a couple samples here, and just have a conversation. What was my most popular page yesterday? Asks you for a date range, gives you the stats. We also include charting if you want to. It's really cool. You just create a new conversation and just go to town. Again, super powerful, super easy, no coding needed. This is all built into Monster Insights. And then there's some other tools in here as well. So user journeys. This will show you exactly where folks are going within your e-commerce store. And then we have some growth tools as well. So if you ever need resources or you want to know how to do something, we provide all that information here. All right. Very cool. I hope you found this fun. Okay. That's it. That's the gist. You dealt with me. You made it through all the way through. I really appreciate it. That's all I wanted to share today.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Zach. Golly, I'm glad this is being recorded. And by the way, everybody's been asking. Yes, it will be. You'll get an email afterwards. It'll be on a YouTube channel. Lots of good questions came in. But I'm a data nerd, Zach, and I love, looking through all that because when you see what matters, and I think you point out a couple of different ways to do that. One in particular that stuck out was cart abandonment. I remember back when I was running iThemes years ago and realizing those percentages is lost money. People with
Yeah.
intent ready to buy. But if you think about this, we've all done this. Put something in the cart, get distracted, whatever, and then just forget about it. And it works. Cart abandonment
Yeah.
works. I heard one thing today. There's so much here, though, Zach. You hear one thing, if you're doing e-commerce, you don't have cart abandonment enabled and aren't watching those stats, you're missing money.
Very true. Agree.
So, hey, everybody, be sure and put your questions over here in the Q&A app. There's several questions here. 13 looks like waiting on us. But thanks so much, Zach. And, Awesome Motive and Monster Insights through Zach Gorta and others that we're going to be on here have come on to share this experience and expertise with you to make your website better and for your clients and yourself. So I asked Zach, I said, hey, do you have something you'd like to offer this at the end? And we're going to take Q&A just right after that. But Zach, could you share what you have for
Yeah,
you to do for
definitely,
ask for it?
definitely. Yes, Corey, thank you. So yeah, I created a special coupon for everyone here. So you have to bear with my great design skills here. But yeah, if you go to monsterinsights.com and grab either the pro or the agency plan, just enter in the code A2webinar. You'll get 65% off your first year. I think that might be the same as Black Friday. It's pretty much our lowest price ever. So feel free to grab that. I really do appreciate everyone that stuck with me, and I hope that you get these insights and find them as powerful and as useful as we do every day at Monster Insights.
All right. Well, Zach will keep that up, and I'll try to put a link here in the chat for you all to check that out. Thanks for Zach for doing that, and thanks again for
Pleasure.
sharing what you've done today. Gets me back when I was just in Google Analytics Weekly, and when you're running your business depends on this, you're living in these screens. So I see how Monster Insights makes it even better.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, just to check this off, I think I already know this, but Gary said, is this product specific to WordPress?
Yes, it's for WordPress, correct.
Okay, yes. I want to make sure I knew that. I didn't, if there was something else, I didn't want to answer that without asking you. So there's several people that asked Zach, do you all have any kind of service to help set up the two, Google Analytics and all that?
Yeah, great question. So what's great about Monster Insights is everything gets configured for you automatically. So I didn't go through the process, but essentially once you install Monster Insights, it's point click. So you can click connect to Google Analytics, you'll select your profile, it's your username, and then whichever analytics property you want to measure, we take it from there. We'll literally configure Google Analytics, we'll set up the tagging, we'll set up all the events. There's absolutely nothing you need to do. And the best part is if you are a power user or maybe you want to look at things, several years down the road or whatnot, all the data that we collect, it actually doesn't hit us. It always goes right to Google Analytics. So we're properly sending all that data information to Google Analytics. So maybe you have a consult or something come later, they can drill down into GA4 and get all the data that you see in the Monster Insights reporting.
Excellent. Thank you. Gina
Yeah.
asks, what if you're not using WooCommerce for your products?
Yep. So Monster Insights is designed to help analytics on any WordPress website. So whether you're a WooCommerce store or maybe there's a list. So if you're an e-commerce store and you're selling things, whether it's EDD, MemberPress, Lifter, so on and so forth, we support all those automatically. So that would include things like viewing the products, checking out, so on and so forth. And that's what creates the funnels. Now, if you're not an e-commerce store, maybe you're still a business with like lead forms, we do the form tracking for you. If you're a publisher, we do all the engagement stats for you. Regardless, we're tracking everything that we can. So, I don't know what kind of website you're thinking of, but more likely than not, we'll at least get you some of the insights you want, like the landing pages, right? That's key. No matter what type of website you own, whatever the purpose of it is, you really want to understand what's happening once traffic hits your website, and then what it does while it's on your website. And that's what Monster Insights allows you to see is all that engagement, all that pathing. So whether you're selling something or maybe it's lead forms or maybe it's just information, we're going to show you those stats that you can use and leverage.
Excellent. Joseph says, I don't sell products online. I'm a corporate photographer. So how can this help me create more visits to my website? So I
Yeah.
notice in here, okay, if you need some more clarification, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. So what we see with our Search Console integration, that's a really great way. So I think you mentioned you're a photographer. So you're going to be relying probably on campaigns like social campaigns, organic search, SEO optimization. So what Monster Insights will allow you to see is from the organic side, which search terms are bringing people to your website. So you might see some fluctuations go up or down, and you can optimize your SEO strategy for those keywords. If you're running social media campaigns, we'll track when visits are coming to the website. If you're using ads, though, like Facebook ads or maybe, I'm sorry, Meta ads or Google ads or something else, maybe like book a photography service, when you set those campaigns up, you can use the UTM tracking parameters. So that'll show you your campaigns and your sources and everything else. And so that will allow you to see which campaigns are effective or not. In terms of growing your traffic, there's a whole bunch of other tools out there that we integrate with. So like Pretty Links and Affiliate WP if you want to have an affiliate program. But even like All-in-One SEO, All-in-One SEO is part of Automotive. And so we actually will integrate with them. So if you get your scores, we can see your SEO progress as time goes on and help showcase that. So there's a lot of different ways that, again, once you see how the data, how the customers are coming to your website, how they're interacting, that's when we help show you see and you can get those insights to say, okay, I want to focus on this thing. It's working for me. Let me double down there.
You'll for sure see everybody that Awesome Motive as a whole has a lot of different plugins that do work together. So I'm glad you mentioned all-in-one SEO. Um,
Yes.
but that search queries when he was back talking about that, that's where that integration comes into. So as a photographer, like Zach said, you want to be found in the search engines when someone in your area or what you do, or for your particular corporate, whatever those services, things you want mapped back. And I think we're going to have someone from All-in-One SEO here in a couple of weeks, maybe next month from Osmotive to help with that too. But you'll see how these are kind of connected. So great question, Daniel. Or I'm sorry, Daniel asked, what is the bounce rate?
Yeah, certainly. So bounce rate is traffic hitting your website and then leaving. In the case of Google Analytics 4, it's a little, I don't want to get too technical, but basically with GA4, it's people that only have one or two events. They don't go to other pages or their screens. So if you have like a single web page app, or maybe you actually have an app and you're using GA4, it's people that are coming, leaving, and not engaging with you. So that can tell you essentially, is your website either not loading properly, is it not engaging, is it not the right information that people are looking for? Bounce rates, just out of experience in my career, bounce rates will fluctuate. There's not like a gold standard. So a bounce rate that might be high to you could actually be really low to someone else. It could be on a whole bunch of different factors. But yeah, bounce rate is something to monitor because you can say, okay, however people are getting to this page with whatever means, either it's resonating with them or not. They're either engaging or they're not.
So see, that connects to the last question. So you're doing SEO work or you're getting ad work, you're pulling that data in, and then in analytics, you're seeing bounce rate and going, okay, there's another indicator. I got them to the site, but they didn't make another, they left. So that's where in the past for me, Zach, I don't know how you do it, but I've thought, okay, what could be impacting that? Why could this be I've got them to the page I want them on, but they're not doing the thing. And there's a lot of statistics. I'm sure all of you can Google and figure out comparable, bounce rates. I appreciate you saying that. You've had a long career doing this, Zach. So I lean in when you're talking like that there are differences between,
Yeah,
like a news site, I would say, okay, maybe there might be a higher bounce rate than maybe another type of site. But all of that is just good data. And why you want to be, if you've got a website central to your strategy, which I think it should be, to be watching some of these key indicators. We talked about cart abandonment, and now you just, talking about bounce rates. It's another one to keep track of.
exactly. Exactly.
Okay, somebody asked, what's the difference between the free Monster Insights plugin and paid?
Yeah, great question. So Monster Insights Free will do all the basic tracking. So we'll do things, we'll monitor your landing pages, we'll do all the event tracking, and we'll send most of that into Google Analytics. That's not going to include the forms or the conversion tracking, none of those advanced things. The light version also doesn't have those built-in reports inside WordPress. So you can navigate inside DA4, you can look at your landing pages and filter those things out, but it's not going to have all the beautiful reporting inside WordPress. To me, that convenience factor is what makes it all worth it. So if you go to monsterinsights.com, that URL there with the pricing, you can see the breakdowns. Just imagine Plus, Pro, we're basically just adding more and more functionality. If you're doing any sort of e-commerce, anything with forms tracking, you'll definitely want to go with Pro. That's where we start doing all the really powerful insights.
So if you're just kind of stepping into this conversation, haven't been using Google Analytics, pair that with the free version, get it going. But
Yeah,
when you saw
exactly.
the power of what he said, and even with the pro version, you can step into graduate in. As he went through the screens, you can start to, okay, I'm going to start here, overview page. I think you called it the quick KPI check-in.
Quick KPI check-in, yes.
And so get some feel with it. And when you're ready, look at the pro version. And I agree with Zach. Here's the most compelling value proposition, but you already know it, Zach, is Google Analytics is a beast. It's a big sledgehammer. It's confusing. I don't know the operational principles. It's foundational, but you can real quickly get overwhelmed. And tools like Monster Insight make it so much easier to extract and get the right data you need without having to have a PhD in Google Analytics. Would you agree, Zach?
Yes.
That is one of
Exactly.
the most
Well
compelling
said.
reasons I can say why consider Zach's offer, but for sure get the free offer is because just making it more simpler. Like, there's other analytic tools out there, but Google Analytics is the base and the big one.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so Paula asks, how would Monster Insights compare to other analytics tools out there? And I'm just curious, you run this part of the company for Automotive called Monster Insights, and I'm just curious, what things stand out to you from Monster Insights? What are those key things that go, okay, this, and that?
Yeah. I think, as I mentioned before, Automotive, our company, we really are designing tools to, help the small business owners grow and compete against the big guys. And it sounds like, it slips off my tongue because I've said it so many times, but that's truly the product that we're building is a tool that's powerful but easy. And so a lot of the other analytics tools out there, they have different sort of segments that they're going for. GA is universal. That it's the most. As Corey, you said, it's the most popular out there, and so we said, hey, let's integrate with that. When you look at some of the other analytics tools, specifically that like in the WordPress community, a lot of those are actually storing a lot of that information on your website, which scared me a little bit, right? If you've ever had a website crash or go down, or maybe it gets popular, by storing all that information locally, you're putting your website at risk, and you'll actually slow down the more popular it gets. So in that regard, Google Analytics in their backend, which is really powerful, so we can scale without issues. There's a whole bunch of other competitors out there too, but they don't deliver the insights. They don't deliver kind of that in-depth analysis that GA allows us to do. So maybe you want to look at something in a completely new way. Maybe you just want to add a new feature that someone else has figured out in Google Analytics. you can follow that guide, you can follow that tutorial and get those insights. Where if you're on a different provider, a different platform, you might not just get that at all. So that's kind of the benefits of using Google Analytics. And that's why we choose to go with it. As sort of our back end. It allows us to scale, allows you to scale, and allows you to get those insights and drill down really, really, really deep if you want to, but don't need to if you don't want to.
Yeah, when you started doing the pivot tables and talking about that, I was like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah.
We may have to see if you come on and put some more reports together for us because I think that's so insightful. But again, you're watching your own metrics. You know what's important to you. If you're selling a product on your website, e-commerce for sure, even if you're a services-based business, you want to watch those key indicators to where you're trying to get them to, which is to push the buy button, hit the contact form to engage you. And those keys, knowing those keys are the ones you need to obsess. And I love that you shared all this too. And then it can then be reported because if you're like me, I'm going to forget.
Yep.
Often I'm going to forget. But one last thing you just said, Zach, that is ginormously important, which is how is the data being handled? Where now in 2025, it is a necessity that you think about that. Everybody here, think about that. How is your data being handled? As I said earlier, it's sent back. It's not stored. It's sent back. It doesn't go anywhere over here to Monster Insights. It's sent back to Google. They're dealing with the data. That's an important thing. So if you're looking at another tool or whatever, it's something to ask before you even consider is how is that data being handled? If you don't get a good answer, I'd start to worry. But Zach, right there, thank you for that. That's right on.
Yeah.
How knowledgeable do you need to be with GA4 in order to be Lawrence asked more efficient and to get benefit from Monster Insights?
Zero. That's the beautiful part, right? You don't have to ever log into Google Analytics 4. Once you connect your website, you can use the power of Monster Insights. You use the dashboard. You never have to log into GA4 if you don't want to. That's a very, very valid use case for a lot of our customers.
Full disclosure, I asked my friends at Awesome Motive to do these webinars because I believe in their products, love their products. But Lawrence asked that, not me, because I thought, oh, hey, this is a great one. Perfect. And that is so key. Like I said, I felt like Google Analytics is a sledgehammer of a tool when you just need a hammer sometimes. And Monster Insights makes it better. Cynthia asked a great question. I'm glad she asked this because I want these webinars we've been catering for our agency partners at A2 Hosting. She asked, can the reports be set up to be emailed to your customers monthly? And if so, how many email addresses can be added?
Yeah, so we certainly can do that. And I don't believe there's a limit. I can double check, but yeah, for agency customers, it's easy. You can actually customize your header, make it branded for you. It gets sent out automatically. I'll have to check in. I believe it's a limited email. You just keep adding them and commas in there. I'm sure there's some limit, but you can do it on a per site basis. So that also helps as well. So you just get the one email report for the one website, and that's built into Monster Insights Pro.
Excellent. All right. Well, we've hit our time. Thank you so much again, Zach, for coming on, graciously sharing your experience, your expertise, and the offer to our audience here to get a discount on Monster Insights, excuse me. And then just know, everyone, there's a free version. Go test it out. Keep the code. Go test it out. See if it's right for you. When the replay comes out, you're going to see these and go back, look at what Zach was doing. Because when you started, again, when you did that, talked about tables and I was like, wow, okay. Getting that right kind of data there, which is why we might need to come back again. I might need to ask you to see if you
Love
want
it.
to come back
Love it.
on. So
Love it. We'll do. Yeah.
thank you, Zach. And thank you, everyone, for being here to another A2 Hosting webinar series. Zach's colleagues are going to be back in a couple of weeks, months, sharing more insights. Maybe if you all need to ask, let's ask Zach to come back and talk even more about these reports and stuff. But thank you, Zach, and everyone for being here today.
Thanks, Al.